Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, my lovely seekers and finders. Uh, Welcome to the Way of Truth number 43. I think it's 43. Yes, it is 43. So, my name is Artem, Artem Boysev. This is my website. I'm a spiritual teacher, and this is the podcast where we speak on all matters of spirituality. I speak to my students, I provide guidance and answer questions, and people share their experience. We speak about the matters of the heart. We speak about the most important thing. We speak about everything that we have the courage to. So I welcome you to this broadcast, and I encourage you to participate in it. So it is broadcasted on both Facebook and YouTube, and actually Twitter too. And if you follow this link, which I posted right now to both Facebook and YouTube. Actually, it didn't post on YouTube for some reason. It says can't post comments to some destinations. Well, StreamYard is misbehaving today, it seems like. But if you follow this link, it's also in the description of the event on both YouTube and Facebook. If you follow this link, you will be taken to a webpage where you can join the broadcast. StreamYard is a browser-based software. All you need is a webcam. And you will end up in my guest room, and I'll be able to bring you on screen, and we can have a conversation. So I always encourage to have a conversation in person, but even video is better. So, but if you don't want to show your face for whatever reason, then you can also just simply post comments to both YouTube and Facebook. I cannot post on YouTube, it looks like, but I can see it. So we just had a comment. White Red says, Merry Christmas and lots of love for the upcoming year. Thank you. And just like that, I'll be able to bring it on screen and address it. So, Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy holidays, whatever holiday you celebrate. And Happy New Year, also, upcoming New Year. I congratulate all members of my Sangha with the holiday season. Thank you, everyone who have expressed your warm wishes to me. And also thank you to everyone who, since the last time, has supported me on Patreon. We wanted to hit the $300 a month target, and we did. So this is great. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It helps a lot towards our goal to finally building a retreat center and helping many more people. So I appreciate that very much. Now, the attendance today is probably going to be less than usual due to the holiday season. But, so Bojan says hello. Hello, Bojan. But we have one guest right now in the guest room. His name is Tilak, and I'm going to bring him on stage. Hello, Tilak.
Hey.
Hey.
Artem. Is it working? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Good to see you. Happy holidays to you.
Thank you.
I was wondering, can you help diagnose where I am on the path? Is that a possibility?
Possibly, but how is it going to help you?
I think I have an interest in understanding if it's possible for people to do that.
To do what?
To understand where another person is at on the path.
Yes, of course it is.
Okay.
I mean, not with 100% certainty. I mean, you could be a fully enlightened Buddha just messing with me. I don't know, you know. So there's nothing that I can say with 100% certainty. But if you're sincere in the description of your experience, then yes, of course. I mean, there are certain stages. They are actually documented in various spiritual traditions. If you study different spiritual traditions, it's very difficult to actually understand them without having gone through them yourself. But if you have gone through them yourself, then you can actually recognize the same stages described in various spiritual traditions. Some spiritual traditions are more complete than others, so their description is more accurate. Some only describe up until a certain stage, but but yes, I mean it is possible, yes. But the other thing about stages, though, is that they can be kind of revisited multiple times, and ultimately, in complete enlightenment, they all kind of fuse together. So, strictly speaking, if you have spent a certain amount of time in a certain stage, it does not mean that you will never revisit this state of consciousness. It does not mean that uh, there is no deeper integration of this aspect of the journey that can happen later. So, but if you're going through them for the very first time, then if you read inaccurate or well enough articulated, I would say, description of an experience, of a subjective experience, and you cannot relate to it at all, then with an overwhelming probability, it's still ahead of you.
Okay. I think you helped answer if it's possible for me to understand where I am on the path myself. What I'm more interested in is like, can another person, in this example, you, see where I am on the path just by interacting with me, just by seeing me, and like with how much accuracy can that be done? Um, can you see where my delusions are, or do I have to physically say them myself? I'm trying to figure out like how can this be detected from a third party kind of thing.
Okay, so we can do that, but I'd like to introduce a couple of caveats into this conversation.
Sure.
Uh, uh, First of all, how would you ascertain it, right? So if you say, okay, I can see it myself, or maybe not that, but I believe that it's possible to see it myself, but I wanna see if you can do it, right? So in order for you to see that I can do it, you need to compare it with something, right? So you would be comparing it to self-evaluation.
Right.
So this kind of assumes that you would be able to ascertain it accurately, and then you see if another person can.
Mhm.
So uh, this might not be true, actually. If you're dealing with someone who is much further along than you on the spiritual path, the opposite is usually true. They can ascertain much better than you where you are in the spiritual path. There's like this persistent illusion of the ego, and I know it all too well because it's been my experience to think that uh, the understanding of the spiritual path is more complete than it is, and kind of massage and misinterpret all the description of further stages into, oh yes, I know what it's like, I've been there, I know it, I understand everything.
Mhm.
So usually it is the opposite. Usually people are very stubborn in accepting that there's much more to go, and then there are more stages, or their spiritual path is not complete. They usually evaluate themselves much further along than they are. So there's one thing. Another is you mentioned looking versus uh, speaking, right? So there's no like X-ray vision. It's like I cannot see directly. Like if there's some anguish in you, or if there's some anger or fear, I cannot see directly, kind of like in your body or like through your chest or something like that. It's not possible. There's a definitely an amount of uh, perceptiveness that when you interact intimately with someone much further along than you, may feel almost magical or telepathic or outworldly. But it's coming from two things. It's coming from uh, your own wordings, your own descriptions, your own the way that you use language, the contradictions in your thinking, the uh, kind of misconceptions that you might still reveal when you speak, and from visual and auditory information, basically. So from looking at your face, from looking at your body language, from looking at how relaxed your body is, how you move, how you speak, the tone of voice, right? And from that perspective, video is kind of more or less okay, but the in person is very very different. So if you want to like ascertain yourself how far along you're on the spiritual path, like actually one of the best things that you can do is to meet someone like me, for example, is to meet me in person and spend like for example an hour in my presence, and simply notice everything that comes up, like how uncomfortable it would be basically. So with that being said, those are like two very important caveats. So with that being said, we can certainly try.
Okay, I would like to try. Um, do you have any starting point, or should I?
Well, I guess the very first observation that I can make is just is just by the very fact of you asking this question, we can assume with almost 100% certainty that it's not complete. Because if it was complete, it wouldn't even occur to you to speak to me about it. So that's one. Now, well, tell me about what you have realized and what your everyday conscious experience is right now. Okay, well, you see, you need some time. That's another sign that that internal processes are going on, and they keep going on. So there's an inner gaze that continues to unravel.
Okay. Um, I think what I've realized is that uh, what I am is not limited to the body.
Okay.
And my conscious experience right now is there is like sense data that's kind of just arising in like a field kind of thing. Um,
So would it be accurate to say that you realized yourself? So you thought you were the body,
mhm.
and you realize yourself to be consciousness, in which the body appears as a conglomeration of sensory data, such as the image of the body, the vision, the hearing, the bodily sensations.
Yeah, but I would say it's not just the consciousness. Like it's just not limited to the body. So you can say it's the consciousness, it's the body, it's the world. It's the only thing I'm saying is that it's not limited to the body. I'm not like fixed on what it actually is. Like it is absolutely undefinable.
Okay. So, uh, um, so you so you don't want to call it consciousness. Do you call consciousness something else? Basically, I'm trying to see if there's a reason you don't want to call it consciousness.
When you say I don't want to call it consciousness, what I'm saying is I don't want to identify as consciousness. That doesn't feel like the truth of my
Well,
experience.
you already identify as consciousness. It's the you don't want to say that you are consciousness, right? Like I think that we need to make a distinction between uh, saying something, describing something,
Hmm.
right, and and the actual experience. So when we say, right, you your identity moved to consciousness, or you identify as consciousness, in which all of this appears, or in which like the sensory data appears, or you can say like I identify that as I feel like I am the sensory data itself, or you can say like I feel like I am nothing. You see, it really not a statement of newfound identity. It's a I understand that it's like a big taboo in spirituality to say that, oh yeah, like, I identify as this or that, or I identify as nothingness. Nothingness is not an identity. I am not consciousness. I don't have any identity whatsoever. But all this is just like semantic arguments, right? So this statement is just a pointer. It's just description of the experience. You're not like uh, failing spiritually by saying, well,
Right.
feels
But
like
we're communicating, right? So like I don't know how you're gonna take it. I don't know if you're gonna take it as a statement of just a semantic statement of a description or something that I am fixated on. So I that's why I'm like kind of trying to feel that out in this exchange.
um, okay.
Mhm. But now I have the answer that you're telling me that you don't see, a statement like I am consciousness as a final definitive claim of identification. It's just more
I don't
dis-
see I don't see any statement
Mhm.
as I don't see any statement that is like expressed in language, like I am, or I am this, or I am not this, or whatever. I don't see any such statement as proof of anything at all.
But you use things as indicators, like when I paused and I thought,
Yeah, but
um,
notice that those were not statements. So I
right.
look at behavior. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so now I'm getting some information that you kind of value behavior more than statement, like in terms of
Yes, I.
how.
That's actually a very obvious, very accurate observation. I value behavior over words because people lie all the time. And I actually recommend everyone do exactly the same. I recommend you to look at the person's behavior rather than their statements. This will save you a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I am
But
consciousness.
anyway, so
Yeah.
so you feel like what you are is limitless, right?
Limitless. Yeah.
Infinite, right? That's actually one of the characteristics of consciousness.
Mm,
So you feel like what you are is limitless, and
mm,
what your body what you thought your body was. I mean, you thought you were your body, right? And now it feels like the image of the body, the sensations of the body, just appear in this limitness
mhm, mm.
container, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. What else appears in it? How
The
about
world, my
suffering?
room. Um,
How about anger? How about obsessive thoughts? How about unpleasant? sensations? How about difficult, intense energies? What else other than the vision, hearing, which are quite neutral? What else appears in it?
Okay, so first I'll start with the present moment, and then I'll refer to memory. So right now, there is nothing I can label as unpleasant at all. It's pretty pleasant, warm, cozy, like just feels good. There's no anger. So yeah, that's answering your question for the present moment. Now, should I refer to the past and my memory faculty to answer your question as well?
Yes, yes. I'm not asking specifically about right now, but I'm asking, like, to ascertain, to evaluate someone's state of consciousness, we need to take like a period of their life,
Okay.
right? And it can be a few weeks, it can be a year, it could be anything. But talk about some period of your life,
Okay. Okay. Hmm.
because in the present moment, if you say, right, there's absolutely nothing unpleasant appears in my conscious experience right now. Everything is fine. I'm completely at peace and things like that. I can say, well, yes, you're completely enlightened right now.
Mhm.
So I can also add this caveat.
Right. Okay. Um, there are definitely physical sensations that appear that feel that I could potentially label as unpleasant. Um, even
what,
I've mentioned this. Oh, go ahead.
what are they about? Like physical sensations can be, if you hit your finger, that's of course going to be unpleasant.
Mhm.
But do they uh, do any physical sensations that are unpleasant appear as a result of meditation or interacting with other people? There is no way the answer to this question is no.
It's not no. I'm just thinking to what extent it is. Yes. Um, yeah. Like there's like brief like blips in the radar that kind of pop up. Um, and there's certain circumstances where it's pretty acute, like certain
Intense.
situations with like
It can get quite intense, right? But
yeah.
but probably not for long.
I mean, as
Or
long as I'm in the setting with in that particular instance, like it's like it's almost like a night and day difference between like the resting state, let's say, versus that setting. So there are like certain settings that like I guess I haven't processed or like understood or learned to like not resist those sensations or something like that. Yeah. So there are like circumstances. I think like with my parents and stuff, like how they say like if you're enlightened, like go
yep,
home for Thanksgiving or something.
yep.
Like with my parents, like I've made that a point to like really process all of those like triggers. And so like that is pretty much like smoothed out. But then I haven't done that work with like the opposite gender, let's say. I haven't like made that conscious intentioned like effort to process what actually arises in that kind of setting. And so therefore there's still a lot more work to do in that setting for me.
Okay. So have you made the realization that what you thought you were does not exist? So you probably made some flavor of this realization, right? So you thought you were the body, and now it looks like you are observing the body.
It feels like there's I'm being completely honest, I'm not trying to like dodge the question. It feels like there's no need to identify who I am.
Yeah, but my question was not about that.
Okay. Well, it kind of implies that for me, because when you ask,
Not quite.
okay,
So you lived under the impression that you were something,
right,
and then you realize that you are not that something, right?
right,
And in your case, that something would be the body, right?
right. Hmm.
But you have not made the realization that what I thought I was does not exist. Not what I thought I was is not me, but what I thought I was does not exist.
Hmm. I thought I was does not exist. I mean, I see that it appears,
Yeah, but
and I see that it has a
but I
great
mean, does not exist. This just really does not exist. Not just appears, but does not exist.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by doesn't
Really.
exist?
So what is the ego to you? The ego to you is the body, probably, right?
And the ego, I mean, how I define it is like what one self identifies as.
Okay, so the ego to you is the sense of identity, and your sense of identity was, in your language, would be described as the body, and
Mm.
now the sense of identity was broken,
Mhm.
and uh, okay, uh, okay. So I think that I understand where you are. Have you made a realization that everything you thought about yourself, everything you believed about yourself was not true? Or is it only I am the body that ceased to be true?
Um, I think I've made that realization. I don't know if it's complete though. Like there's probably strands of it that I haven't.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. So the stages are kind of, I kind of, I kind of wobbly. I would say it's like not an exact science. Did you have a massive release of bliss?
Yeah.
Uh, does bliss continues to come after you work through some difficult energies?
So like I feel like bliss is like the state I'm experiencing now. Like it's pretty pleasant. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Okay. So uh, the only thing that I can say with certainty is that you're somewhere between uh, the awakening and enlightenment. That's the only thing that I can say with certainty. So there is a point uh, of the path that I called self-realization. The abiding awareness, as other teachers call it. Like, for example, that's what Adi calls abiding awareness. It's the same as Sat Chit Ananda. So basically, it is the state of consciousness where you never forget that you are not the ego, right? Uh, so even if it's difficult, you in normal waking state of consciousness, let's say waking state of consciousness, because during the night in dreams you will still forget, but in a waking state of consciousness, you never forget uh, that you're not the ego, or like in your case, the way that you describe it, that you are not the body. I actually don't like this description. That's not a very accurate description. It is the idea that the ego is the body. The ego is actually not the body, and and that the ego is only the sense of identification, arises early on the spiritual path. So it was quite the same for me after self-realization. What the ego actually is seen much better later. Uh, so so if you can say that you never forget it, if you don't fluctuate back and forth between the sense of identification and the sense of disidentification, then uh, in my language, that is equivalent to self-realization. So a lot of people would describe it as enlightenment. I reserve this term for the state of consciousness where of a very deep equanimity of mind. So where the unpleasant sensations and unpleasant experiences don't arise in meditation or with your parents or with the opposite gender, where the mind is very deeply equanimous. But it starts with a abiding permanent disidentification with the ego. I think that you have disidentified with the ego, and the illusion is that you have disidentified with the body, uh, which is the illusion that almost everyone goes through, and myself included, because the ego loves to confuse itself with the body. In the dream state, the ego thinks it's the body. That's why people commit suicide. Uh, if but regardless of how you view the ego right now, and whether regardless of that, if the sense of uh, disidentification is continuously present during your waking hours and you never forget it, then I would say that in my language, in my kind of stages, that's the self-realized state. That's there is definitely much more to go up to that. So in some ways, you could even say, in some ways, that the disidentification with the ego, or which you describe as the body, it really doesn't matter. That the permanent disidentification with the sufferer, we could put it this way. In some way, you could even say that it's only beginning of the true spiritual work, which is a bizarre statement to many, because usually to get to that point, there's so much struggle and hardship and lots of practice. But in some ways, this is where like the real fun begins, because what happens afterwards, and I'm sure you have noticed, is that uh, the denied, uh, rejected pains of conditioning and pains of the ego uh, get routinely illuminated, discovered, and made visible to you and experienced in intensity that wasn't available before, uh, to be uh, followed by uh, continued release of bliss and sinking into peace deeper and deeper. And that's the bulk of it. That's actually the bulk of the spiritual path.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
Makes sense?
it makes absolute sense. I know there's a lot more to go, but I do know there's a lot I have also processed at the same time. Like,
Of
so,
course. Yeah. No. Even get to this point, you'd have to have opened up very significantly. Yeah.
mm,
Of course, of course. The there are kind of models of awakening with uh, specific steps, and some of them actually include many steps. Like Gautama in Pali Canon described, like, I don't remember, like 13 or 16 steps. And even though, once the process is complete, you can look back and identify the characteristics and qualities of every step, and this could still be an accurate description. The order in which they come uh, is can be very, very different. So I'm not a fan of models where steps are small and discrete, right? The uh, the sense of identity. I mean, you can. Uh, identify a milestone in the spiritual path where the sense of identity changes. And so the sense of identity comes from ego to the totality of everything. I am everything. Then it jumps to nothingness. So I'm nothing. Uh, and then actually those two merge, and the identity comes back to the body again. So you could kind of identify these big major shifts, and I think in your case you have went through one of them. But the way people go through this shit, it could be like you could spend like a lot of time in this I am everything, and then suddenly it shifts to nothingness, and you spend a lot of time there. Or you can go back and forth many times, because they are the facets of the whole. The oneness with everything and the emptiness of everything are two facets of the whole. The one represents life, another represents death. So they are two sides of the same coin. So it's possible to go through them many times over. So I'm not a very big fan of kind of maps that that take you. And what usually happens is that people go through those experiences, as I say, complete the small circle and arrive back to ordinarity, and they say, yeah, this is full enlightenment, I'm ordinary again. But then there's still a lot of emotional reactivity, and if they practice, they go again through the same stages, right? So from that perspective, I don't see uh, an importance of identity shifts. But since you're not, but since I think you've only had one, then there's certainly going to be some other games with identity for sure. So some of the changes in identity for sure. The one that you described, the disidentification with ego, is the most important one. So when it is abiding, when it is continuous, I would say that is the state of abiding awareness. Everything else happens on its own, and it can happen very intensely. It can also take many years for it to happen. The spiritual practice continues to be effective at this point. This is the most important shift. But generally speaking, it is somewhere in the middle of the spiritual journey. It's not the end of it. I mean, as I said, in some ways it's even the beginning of it. But it's certainly the most important shift. Certainly.
Okay, great. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's actually this state of consciousness is what the vast majority of people would call enlightenment. But then, I mean, the same people would also say that there are levels of embodiment, right? Or let's say, Ramana said once, there are no levels of insight, but there are levels of experience. So it's the same, right? It's the difference between uh, knowing that you're not the ego and living as if you're not the ego. And so the experience evolves dramatically over the course of subsequent years.
Mhm.
And I think it's going to keep evolving.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
So did I answer your question with regards to if it's possible or not?
You did. I mean, you did answer my question, but I'm like computing how accurate it was, and doing all that like evaluation. So that'll be like my contemplation post getting out of this StreamYard. And
You know what would be much more accurate, actually. I mean, these are all, the interesting thing about also the Enlightenment is that people tend to focus on these big shifts, the resolution of philosophical questions, all of those. These are important for sure, but that's how the journey starts. I tend to focus on specific patterns of behavior that come from unconscious beliefs about yourself, and that are also connected to unresolved pains. So it's like you automatically behave, you automatically react a certain way because there's some pain, there's still some unresolved pain, and there's an inaccurate belief wrapped around this pain that leads you to play out the automatic patterns of egoic conditioning. So that is actually a much more impressive observation than kind of talking philosophy. Talking like in spirituality, almost everyone can say these things. I'm not the body, I'm not the ego, I'm consciousness, I'm infinite self, blah blah blah. But then they behave in a completely different manner. manner. So if you want to kind of gauge the accuracy of what it actually is possible to perceive about another person, then the best thing to do is not just talk philosophy, but let's say to spend a day together and see how you interact with me, with other people, and things like that. And then they will notice quite a lot of things usually, and they would probably be scarily accurate. And so that is uh, somewhat different from kind of ascertaining a general kind of stage, because the path is about illuminating and dissolving the egoic conditioning, and it goes quite deep. And so the behavior of the human is tremendously, overwhelmingly transformed. Not just a question of identity, like I can no longer say I'm the body, I'm human, whatever. I must always say like I'm that, I'm consciousness. But they actually minute to minute, day to day behavior with interactions, reactivity, using language, all of those things change quite a lot.
Yeah, I've seen that.
All right. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good speaking to you. Bye bye. All right, that was fun. We don't have any guests, but we have quite a lot of comments. Okay, Buddha's Dojo said, Merry Christmas, much love. Thank you. Same to you. Bojan says, when we talked and you asked me, and what does them being with someone else say about you and me? In your mind, yes, yes, yes. Why is that such a painful experience? What do you think it means when it relates to you? And I'm wondering, what would a response to that be? Because I'm still not getting anything. Well, um, I can just suggest you self-reflect. So it's not. Uh, you can ask yourself, what does it say about me from their perspective? For example, even if it's difficult for you to see that you also buy into this perspective, and that's why it is so painful. But at the very least, you can say, you can ask, what does this act mean? What do I believe they think about me if they're with someone else? And but ultimately, right, if imagining them being with someone else is painful, is difficult, what is it about yourself that you believe that this is a proof of? Because you believe some falsehoods about yourself that you think this proves true. That's why it's so painful, you see. So you can investigate it from the intellectual side on this perspective. I mean, from this angle. White Red says, the energetic movements have become automatic for me throughout the day, and it is very tiring on the body. Yeah, that happens. Yes, and it can get very tiring, and the body might need a lot of rest to process all of it. I mean, processing repressed emotions actually is a very bodily experience, is a very physical experience. So not only just kind of emotionally, uh, mentally draining, but it can be quite physically draining. Do you have any tips on increasing energy levels if I know I need to be active in daily life? No, unfortunately, no. The only tip that I mean, that's why it can be so difficult to work. I mean, you can, of course, you can use stimulants, but at this point, nothing is free, right? So if you use stimulants, you're just postponing this, right? So you're kind of borrowing energy from the future. So you will crush a little harder. Uh, so ideally, you would try to avoid that, and uh, the only tip that I can give is rest as much as you can, basically. So if you feel sleepy, sleep. If you feel like you need like the body needs rest, take a rest. And then you can also gauge kind of the energy level in the body by simply going outside and taking a walk, right? So even if even that is exhausting, then your body absolutely needs much more rest. So eat well. That's important. Eat well, rest well, and you can do something physically active and neutral and fun and pleasant to try to discern, distinguish between whether you are really drained of energy and you really need a lot of rest, or you're also making yourself do something that you don't want to do. So basically, if it feels like you don't have energy because what you make yourself doing is not what you want to do at all. So this can also happen because like if you continuously make yourself do things that you don't want in greater volume, so to speak, than you want, then you also feel drained. So you're kind of draining yourself. It might help you distinguish between continually over exhausting yourself and simply being exhausted from processing the suppressed, repressed emotion. Because as I said, for example, crying, right? I cried for hours and hours and hours. I cried every day for many years. If you consider crying, that's actually a very physically taxing activity, right? Your breathing is labored during crying. There's exertion of muscles. There's lots of tension. It's not very much different from jogging. You know, if you try crying for an hour, and it's going to be difficult to catch your breath. So yeah, that's what I have to say about this question. Roger Morris is asking, I have a question. What is the psychological reason for scrolling for hours on my phone? I feel it's more to do with my hunter gatherer instinct versus avoiding suffering, but I'm not sure. Okay, so you actually asked it twice. So this in the second version it says, I have a question. Why do people get addicted to scrolling? Is it always due to avoiding oneself or other reasons like hunter-gatherer instinct? So I'm not sure what you're talking. I'm not sure why you would describe it as a hunter-gatherer instinct. I think that in modern social media, at least from my experience, scrolling is mostly entertainment. Well, maybe you were talking about maybe like you are scrolling through your spiritual social media, and like from time to time there's like a nugget of wisdom and you're like, oh yeah, I needed to see that. Like I don't know, I'm not quite sure why you describe it as hunting for something rather than just killing time entertaining. But uh, I don't see anything bad with it actually, unless you know that it is, right? Unless you know that it is a distraction, unless you know that it's procrastination, unless you know that you're just killing time and you distracting yourself from something, unless you know that it would be much better if you meditated, or it would be much better if you did something else. So the answer is as usual within you. It's within yourself. So it is addictive for precisely the same reason as all addictions are addictive. It's because it's a distraction. It's a distraction from the present dissatisfaction. So if you scroll from time to time uh, to entertain yourself, then there's nothing wrong with it, because you see what actually defines addictive behavior is not just being engaged in it. Engaging in any behavior is not addictive by itself. You can say that a behavior is addictive when you know that for your own well-being you should stop it or at least limit it, but you still engage in it. So that's basically what addiction is. So addiction is always acting against your self-interest and knowing it, right? Because the pull to escape the unpleasantness of facing something is just too strong, and you know that it is destroying your life, or you know that it makes it more difficult for you to reach your goals, whether it's some worldly goals or spiritual progression, whether is something that you distract yourself with from spiritual practice or from sitting with a difficult emotion, or it is something you do instead of working on what you want to achieve. It actually doesn't matter. Uh, but the defining characteristic of the addiction is that you know that it's not good for you, and you still can't help but do it because it gives you temporary relief. So uh, hunter-gatherer instinct is something else entirely. I don't know your specific case, but I would be very surprised if it was an accurate description. Okay, Hakan says, I mean, that's by the way one of the reasons why it's so much better to have a video conversation, because I could ask some clarifying questions. It's difficult to answer questions like this without speaking to a person. And I know that you're on my forum, and I think that we spoke before, uh, but I don't remember you very well. We haven't worked for a long time, so it's hard for me to answer this. Hakan says, "Hi Artem, I have a question. Hi, is all thought dreaming?" No, that's actually a great question. Not all thought is dreaming. So, uh, dreaming. Okay, so let me continue. Let me read it. This is a good question. So, do you consider everything outside of your direct experience to be dreaming? No. Concrete question: how do you consider a family member which is not in front of you right now? Well, of course they exist. Yes. So, so here's what dreaming is. Dreaming is imagining things and believing them to be true. That's the difference. Thought is imagining. So thought basically, you can think of thought as uh, learning to adapt your behavior, right? So thought is adaptive behavior. Thought is imagining a situation. It's like running a little simulation in your mind about what's going to happen, right? So you are kind of, it's a computational process. You're kind of computing the best course of action. Like for example, uh, like if you've ever seen an animal solving a new problem, right? Like looking at something, like a cat learning to open a cat door, or even uh, kind of a predator actively watching the prey, you will it will be quite obvious if you watch them for long enough time. It will be quite obvious that they think, right? So they stop to consider different things. So all animals think. They just don't think in language. If they did not think, it would never even occur to them to try something new, right? So thought is a kind of a mini experiment that you run to see, based on your all of your past experience, if you like do something differently, what would be the result? It may be accurate or maybe not, and then like you try it and adapt, and this is how you learn, and you acquire more knowledge and you acquire more experience. So that's generally speaking what thought is. So the difference between humans and animals is that we developed language which allowed for symbolic thought. So there's not a lot of difference actually between math and language. So both allows for symbolic abstract thought, rather than, let's say, just imagining. Like for example, you can if you have a baseball bat and you want to hit something, right? You can imagine it hitting from this angle, from this angle. You can kind of think about how to do it, but you don't do it in language. You literally imagine the process, so to speak, to kind of gauge whether it's a good idea or not. But with language, you can start thinking in very abstract terms and get some very high order rules, high order relationships, high order laws. The quintessential example of this, the pinnacle of this, is mathematics. But language is, generally speaking, of the same structure, of the same nature. But all animals' thoughts. So if you think, if you're an animal, if you have a brain, basically, if you have a central nervous system, then it's a big part of its function. It's adaptive behavior, right? So you can have behavior that is completely unadaptive, that is sort of, it's adaptive in the moment, right? So it adapts to the challenge that is currently presented, but it cannot develop new strategies and new ways of dealing with those challenges, at least within one generation. So it may develop it evolutionarily, but it does not develop. So its behavior are kind of fixed. So good examples is plants, right? Or maybe animals which with very very small neural system, like ants or something like this. But if you're an animal with a complex neural system with a with a big brain, that's the function of the brain, to adapt your behavior, to come up with different ways to behave. And all animals without exception exhibit it to one extent or the other. We just exhibit it much more. Now, uh, dreaming is not just imagining things. So just imagining things is thinking. Dreaming is imagining things and then believing it to be true. You see? A good example, so all like psychological projections are of this nature, where someone says something to you, like someone says something to you, something benign, but you misinterpret it based on your unresolved past experiences in order to mean something else. And you believe it to be true. So beliefs are emotionally charged. That's the difference between dreaming and thinking and imagining. Imagination is not emotionally charged. Believing is emotionally charged because it is difficult to drop beliefs, and beliefs kind of justify our emotions. A very good example that I oftentimes give is, like, imagine you are uh, having a a meeting with a friend who is oftentimes late, and so they are late, and you are absolutely convinced that they are just late because they're tardy, and you're angry at them, and you kind of you're literally occupying this reality now, that, and in this reality, in this universe that is in your mind, your friend is late because they're disrespectful to you, and you react accordingly. Your emotional reactions is according to that situation which you believe to be real, right? Right. So imagine, like, 5 minutes later, you get a phone call, and you're told that your friend was in a car crash and is now dead, or is now in a hospital. So what happens to your anger? It goes away immediately. So this anger was an illusion, right? It was like, he wasn't. It was either anger from the past, right? So you were either angry at them about all the past offenses, which means that it's just unprocessed, repressed anger. You can describe it this way, or you can describe it as kind of temporarily believing that this is reality, even though you don't know for sure. So you imagine that, okay, this is the case him being disrespectful again, and you believe it at this moment, even though you don't actually know what is happening. So the cause of suffering is not imagination. The cause of suffering is not thought. The cause of suffering is believing inaccurate thought. That's what the cause of suffering is, and we can define suffering as uh, displeasure and discontent in a situation where nothing objectively threatens your body, your survival, or your well-being. So we start doing this because in the early childhood we are routinely mistreated, and we are lied about why we're mistreated. So we are told that it's for our own good. We are told many lies about what love is. We are told many lies about why the society is the way it is. So we are basically actively fed a very inaccurate picture of the world, and so we interpret events according to the inaccurate picture of the world which we are adopted, which we have adopted, which we have internalized, that belongs to someone else, that doesn't even belong to us. I mean, that's why the spiritual journey is can be a very lonely path. It's a path of rediscovering the autonomy of your intellect, the autonomy of your thinking process. It's actually learning to think and perceive for yourself. But in the dream state, we perceive it through the the inaccurate worldview, and so we misinterpret events all the time, and we emotionally react to them as if they are true. You can make even example of emotionally reacting to insults as a one example of this phenomenon, right? Because, like, for example, the fact that someone insulted you does not mean that they are physically dangerous to you, for example. Does not mean that they will even do anything bad to you. So in most cases, the uh, emotional reaction of anger is completely unwarranted. So it's coming from the uh, the beliefs about how people are, the beliefs about what the world is, the beliefs about yourself that are not true. So dreaming is not just imagination, and dreaming is not just thought. Dreaming is believing things that are not true, basically. Uh, so whom is asking, in self-realization, when you identify as a body again, because I certainly identify as a body again, but I'm certainly not enlightened completely, which for me would make letting go completely. Um, no, I would say in enlightenment you identify as a body again. In self-realization, you usually identify as consciousness, awareness, everything, nothing, lots of things, but not the body. Um, so so you see that is a question that shows how difficult it is to speak about stages, because every spiritual experience will kind of have the same structure. So even if you had a massive psychedelic trip or a very long meditation experience, it will still have the same stages of insight. So and you will go through different levels of identity to come back to being human again, to being ordinary. You can say that enlightenment is just when this process has been completed to an extent that existing conditioning does not affect, that remaining condition does not affect your life. But you can do a very very small circle, or you can do a very very large circle, and there are also glimpses, right? So you can have a glimpse into the state of no identification, and then you can come back. So So don't worry about it. I mean, the truth is, you are all of it. You are a consciousness. You're the body. You're the ego. You're all of it. So uh, I don't generally even encourage my students to uh, concern themselves with the question of identity. You see, I am actually quite critical of teachings that say that the most important thing is to discover the true sense of identity, which is like no identity or consciousness or whatever. So basically, to disidentify with the ego, even though after self-realization for the first couple of years, I also thought that this is the most important thing, and that's pretty much everything that I talked about. Uh, the the truth is that the question of identity is not actually a very important question, right? What the question of suffering is the most important question. The only reason that you identify with the ego, actually, you can even put it this way: the only reason that you identify with the ego, or you can call it the body, at least it feels this way. Many people, that it's the body. So the only reason that you identify with the ego in the dream state is so strongly, is precisely to not allow the consciousness to expand and start investigating and illuminating the existing suffering. So it's a kind of an escape. It's an escape from the pains of the body, from everything that we carry into the mind, into the continued intellectualizing and continued running of those programs and believing all the shoulds, have tos, and everything, in order not to explore the unconscious parts of the experience. So the question of identity is not actually a very important one. Uh, there could be very potent, very direct, and good pointings using language to show you that you are not the ego, that you're not what you think you are. Ramana's methods of who am I is also a very good method if you want to go down, if you want to practice it. It is actually quite obvious that you cannot be the voice in your head because you're hearing it. It's actually quite obvious that, of course, you are this infinite consciousness in which every experience appears. Of course, you cannot be the talker in your head because there's a voice in your head, but then there's also all sorts of other sensations. They're all present, right? It's actually quite obvious, but uh, but the problem is what happens after this becomes obvious, you know, because we are only continually glued to thought because we are scared to feel all the other stuff. And so if someone is actually not ready for what is happening, what happens afterwards, then the teaching methods that make the question of identity the primary focus and all the exercises, all the in order to for a person to see that, they just don't work. That's why the success of most teachings is dismal, right? So most people who follow a teacher who continuously points to them that they're not who they think they are, most people never get it. So, which is not to say that, I mean, in general, a lot of people get enlightened, but at the very least, I think that the direct investigation of your conscious experience that is other than thought, different from thought, is by far the most important skill that you can develop on the spiritual path. So don't worry about letting go completely, incompletely, right? The letting go happens through feeling. So every time you're dissatisfied with something in your experience, give it your direct attention. Allow yourself to really feel through it. You see, and you will notice that with time, the grip of the mind will begin to loosen, and you will start seeing more and more lies, outright lies that you're telling yourself just to save yourself from feeling something. So that would be how I would answer this question. Maria is asking, "Hey Artem, what to do when the ego doesn't want to let go of the past?" The ego never wants to let go of the past, so do nothing, do absolutely nothing. The you let go of the past by making peace with the past. You see, and making peace with the past means making peace with what you are feeling about the past right now, what you are feeling about the past in the present. So if you're thinking about the past and you start fuming or crying and you allow yourself to have this emotion, honoring what you feel about the past in the present is letting go of the past. So that's the process of letting go of the past. The process of letting go of the past is not denying the past, but allowing yourself to look objectively at everything that happened in the past and allow all of your emotional responses to that. And that happens in the presence, in the present. So I'm pretty sure that you're totally and completely fine. And your ego is, as usual, trying to tell you that you're doing something wrong. You know, you're thinking about the past, or you are experiencing something that you shouldn't be experiencing, and you're doing spirituality wrong. That's probably not the case. So, but I would also encourage you to schedule a one-on-one session with me. By the way, yes, let me say a couple of things about that. So everyone can schedule a one-on-one session with me. I will also post a link right now about it. So if you're here for the first time, if you're not one of my students, then please you can go to this link. It's also posted on Facebook and YouTube, and schedule a session with me. There are many tiers, price tiers available. And also, I'm inviting you to participate, to join our Discord community. So if you would like to join my long-term committed students, we have a beautiful Discord community, wonderful Discord community with lots of support, very insightful people. The spiritual path can be lonely, it can be very difficult. So it's not a community of anonymous members. Everyone has their real name and picture, and people support each other, help each other understand things deeper about themselves, about each other, and also support each other when the going gets tough. So please feel free to join that. And then finally, if you like what I do, uh, please support our work if you can afford it. You can go to this page, and there's a Patreon link there. We are trying to increase our income so that I can pay off my pay my bills from what I do, and then ultimately the goal is to build a retreat center, but that's some years in the future. But every contribution that you make right now helps us reach this goal. So please, if you can afford it, please do that. Okay, let me see. I have other questions. Oof, lots of questions. I'm not sure I'll be able to address all of them. Okay, we actually have a guest, Fanny. Max, I can also see you, but I know you. So, Fanny, are you simply watching, or would you like to come on stage? Okay, she's probably simply watching. Okay, Max, I see you, but let me look at some questions. Michael says, I have had, I believe, a self-realization experience 6 years ago. I was one with everything, unlimited energy, insights, etc. for a few months, a lot of tears and states of stillness. Beautiful. After which I collapsed for 2 weeks, was in bed, then started experiencing a lot of fear and fluctuating state. Yeah, that's how it goes for most people. It has been stabilizing. But I experienced a trauma, which I think led to a lot of indulgence and coping for the last few years, along with a bit of anxiety and depression, stress, tunnel vision, mode, survival. Okay. Okay, Oh, that wasn't a question. Oh, thanks for sharing. Uh, okay, Fanny actually sent me a private message just watching. Yeah, if you just watching, you don't need to use StreamYard. You can just go to YouTube or Facebook, and there's a little bit of a delay there. Uh, but yeah. Uh, okay, let me see what else I have. Louis, Loris, Loris, Loris. I'm not gonna try it for the last name. Says, "Hi Artem. Hey, have you experienced restlessness in the legs? If so, do you have any advice on how to structure a trip around that specifically? I'm asking because when I do mushrooms, the restlessness goes away, but when the trip is over, it comes back, and it's very hard to go work with the sensation." Yeah, the same recipe basically. So restlessness is a manifestation of fear, anxiety, or some tension. So uh, in meditation, uh, spend some time focusing on the legs themselves and allow them to jitter, allow them to like do whatever movements that they want, but watch it, right? So don't do it deliberately. If they move unconsciously, like they're jerking, uh, don't feel that you're failing at something, right? But look at specifically the muscles, the tensions that you might be experiencing there in your legs. That's the only recipe, and you can do that in meditation. You can do that on psychedelic trips also during the come up, and I'm not surprised that it goes away. Uh, when you are on mushrooms. So yeah, it will resolve as more of the suppressed fear and bodily tensions are brought up and relaxed. But again, I mean, if you don't feel that this answers the question adequately, or there are some more nuances, then feel free to schedule a session or come to the next satsang. Maria Teresa says, "Hello, Artem. Hi, I have a question. Just connect right now, but is like the past question: how to handle social ego, such as not be invited to Christmas dinners, thinking not enough friends or social life." Well, yeah, that sucks. So I know this from my own experience. Suffer. That's the only. I mean, investigate the the pain that not being invited, being left out creates in you, basically. Surrender to the pain of loneliness when it comes. Surrender to the pain of injustice when it comes. You cannot will other people to like you, unfortunately. You know, unfortunately, uh, our society is structured in such a way that people who are not socially popular, so to speak, who are not socially universally pleasant, so to speak, are shunned and ostracized and not uh, given the help that they need, which actually doesn't make them more pleasant, they make them less pleasant. So the dream state, I said once, in the dream state, everyone gets exactly the opposite of what they deserve, right? So if you have always been an outcast, you'll probably get more of that, and you will feel even worse about yourself. And if you have always had a kind of a narcissistic popular personality, and were very successful in making other people like you, then you are probably going to get more and more praise, and so your head will grow bigger and bigger. So unfortunately, the only way out is through. You can't make anyone like you. The only thing that you can do is give yourself love, compassion, and understanding when you feel alone, when you feel abandoned, when you feel betrayed. That's the only thing that truly leads to healing. And remember that there is very little value in chasing someone who doesn't want you in their life. So not an easy situation. I know it all too well. My heart goes out to you. Hang in there. Okay. Lizeth says, "Hi, what do you do when being present?" Oh, Max is gone now. Oh no. Max says, "I need to go." Max says, "Oh shit, I didn't." Max, I'm sorry. Well, she says, "I need to go. Merry Christmas, my friend. Love you. I love you too. Thank you. Happy New Year. I was thinking of you. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. It was lovely to see you. Thank you for coming. When you come, I always leave you for the end of the broadcast because we can speak outside of broadcast as well. We know each other well, but other people, many of the commenters I have never seen before. Okay, so Lizeth says, "Hi, what do you do when being present is too painful?" Oh, I've been struggling with meditation because of this. Nothing. Nothing. All you can do is give this pain your attention. Like, you are always present. Even if you think you're not present, you're always present. So your question is you're not even asking me, what do you do when being present is too painful? You asking me, what do I do when it is so painful that I just have to reach for one of my distractions, for one of my coping mechanisms? That I just have to, like, I don't know, go binge eat or drink or shop or do something to distract myself from this pain. And of course, what you do is, first of all, if it happens, don't berate yourself. It's not like you chose it. Like, if you could, you wouldn't do it. So if it felt like that it was too much at that time, then it was. So develop patience. Take it easy. It's a learning process. So say to yourself, that's all right. That's okay. So we'll try next time. And every time that the pain comes, try to get a little bit closer to it. Try to love yourself a little bit more. Try to become curious about it a little bit more. You know, slowly open yourself up to what's inside of you. Don't expect for it to go away in an instant, and don't expect for you to always be like perfect. I'm a perfect spiritual soldier. Like I always handle the pain perfectly without resorting to any distractions. That's completely unrealistic, and it doesn't work this way. So 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 this struggle is very natural. This struggle is very normal. There's always struggle. If there's no struggle at all, then there's very little pain. If there's a significant amount of pain, then there's always struggle. There's always push and pull. It's always a process. It's a process of turning around, facing yourself for the first time in your life, really facing yourself for real. It takes time. It takes time and practice. So uh, congratulate yourself that you have acknowledged it. Forgive yourself that you didn't do it. It's okay. And then next time, just simply spend a little bit more time with it. So baby steps. Learn to spend time with it to the extent that you can, and don't think that if you can't or if you've had enough, right? So then it means that you're a failure. It means that you're doing something wrong. That's your ego telling you. If that is what your ego is telling you, that's the same abusive patterns of thinking, the internalized abusive patterns, self-abusive patterns in thinking that are reflective of the pain in the first place, you see. So the same patterns that are connected to this pain that is difficult for you to feel now applied to this spiritual realm. That's all it is. So patience, love, patience, love, and self-compassion. Those are always the answer. So you can also try specific forms of meditation, like you can try self-compassion meditation, but generally speaking, sooner or later, it will come up in meditation and you'll have to feel it. All right. So on this note, I will finish the satsangs. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone who has come. I would like to see more video guests next time. So please, if you can join via StreamYard, much better interactions this way. All right. So once again, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all other holidays for all cultures of the world with which I'm not familiar. And Happy New Year, happy upcoming New Year. I'll see you all in 2025. And may you all be happy. May you all be well. May you all be free of pain. May you all attain spiritual liberation. You're all doing a great job, great work. Please continue your practice. I love you all very much, and I'll see you next year. Bye.